Hello, everyone. This is Sister Crystal here with Let's Talk Classic Hip Hop. And today I wanted to do a commemoration show to commemorate what would have been the 47th birthday of the late, great Tupac Amaru Shakur, who would have turned 47 years old this year on June 16th, 2018. And one thing about Tupac was even though he was only on this earth physically for 25 years, he accomplished so much in his short period of time on this earth. He's accomplished more than people more than more than twice his age. Now, I sit here and I am sitting, but I'm here doing this tribute to him. And I'll say it, I am a middle-aged 43-year-old woman who loves hip hop, and I absolutely love Tupac. However, I connected more with Tupac as far as his acting. I liked his music, but I was more of a fan of his acting and just his spirit. I loved his interviews because I always learned something every time I watch his interviews. He was very introspective, and one thing I really liked about Tupac, and one reason why I believe that Tupac is one of the few hip hop artists or artists period that connect with both men and women, and he just connects with everyone, is because I considered him one of the first three-dimensional artists. And what I mean by that is he wasn't afraid to show his vulnerabilities. He was not afraid to show his masculine side and feminine side. And believe it or not, all of us, men and women, we have masculine and feminine qualities in us. And he even mentioned it in interviews. Now, I must say it. I have another channel called Classic Hip Hop Storage Box, and one of my first videos on there is an interview that Tupac Shakur did with an interviewer by the name of Tanya Hart back in 1992. And in his interview, he talked about how because of his upbringing by a single mom, that you can tell sometimes when he has the feminine energy and sometimes when he has his male energy, just because he was forced to grow up without a father. And part of that is because, his biological father, the way Tupac described it, was a man in the streets. I'll put it that way. And so he got locked up when he was young, and then his mom met and married a revolutionary man, his mother, and rest in paradise to her, named Afeni Shakur. She met and married this guy by the name of, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Matulu or Matutu Shakur. And he is actually the brother of Joanne Crishard or Krishmard, who is also known as Asada Shakur. And he ended up in prison. And I believe he ended up in prison really just being a political prisoner. And also he was suspected in helping Asada Shakur escaped to Cuba. So this is one of the lesser known facts about Tupac. Even though it says it's about Tupac, we have that 6 degrees of separation. So you can't really talk about Tupac without really talking about his some of his background, especially with his mom. I mean, she was a force in herself, and in the coming months, I will do a feature on Tupac Shakur's mom, because she was a fascinating woman in every sense of the word. But So I already mentioned. So one lesser known fact, you may or may not have known, which I've already mentioned, is Tupac. Um, Tupac's stepfather is the brother of Asada Shakur, who's really exiled in Cuba right now. She's still in Cuba. She's still on the FBI's most wanted list, being accused of being involved in a police involved shooting. So you can go online and kind of Google that and learn some more about that. But again, and I will do something on Asada Secure too, because these are all connected. And one thing that I like to do is I like to get thorough, in-depth information on my shows. So I will do one on that too, and I'm saying it out loud so I can keep myself to it also. So another lesser known fact is Tupac's tattoos. Now he had a lot of tattoos, but it looks like all of his tattoos had meaning. And not to say other people's tattoos don't have any meaning, but there are a lot of times people go and get tattoos and don't really mean anything. But his tattoos had meaning. And for a lot of people may not know. Okay, so the letters on his I guess it's above his abdomen, like on his abs, that read Thug Life, his Thug Life tattoo. You may or may not know that it's an acronym for, it has a meaning. So the acronym is the hate you give little infants F's everybody. Now I'm trying to keep the show clean. So that whole Thug Life is an acronym for the hate you give little infants F's everybody. And ain't that the truth? You know, uh, he, I think he, in addition to using his music and his life, he had his body be a canvas for his beliefs and what he was passionate in. Um, Another lesser known fact of Tupac is Tupac, right before he was assassinated in 1996, he was really going into, he did a lot of interviews, and he was talking about wanting to create a political party. Now, that's a big thing because, as you see what we have going on now, if we or people who care about those that don't have a voice were able to have their own political party, we would be able to get a lot more done and help a lot more people. And with Tupac's upbringing as a from the Black Panther, I know that a lot of that was an influence on him, and he really was in talks of just really putting the idea out there of having your own political party. And actually, it's not a far-fetched idea because it's already happened. Now, as you know, in our current system, we have the Democrat and Republican system. But back in the 1800s, there was no Democrat Party. The parties that they had the Republican Party, they had the Whig Party, and they had some other party. Well, anyway, the Whig Party phased out, and we still have the Republican Party today, but the Democrat Party didn't come about until, I believe, around the First World War. I'm sorry, around the Civil War, something like that. That's when the Democrats Party came up. And actually, the Democratic Party came about in opposition to the Republican Party, because the Republican Party was seen as the party of Lincoln, and and that's Abraham Lincoln, and he's widely credited for signing the Emancipation Proclamation, which ended chattel slavery back in 1863. And but however, the word didn't get around that people were free until like 2 years later. And so that's how we ended up having something called Juneteenth. And I'm going to do something on that too. But anyway, I said all that to say Tupac knew the importance of being involved, or at least having your ear to politics, because, you know, while it may sound good to have our own and have our own, you know, make our own paradise or whatever, we're here in America. We actually helped build this country. So when I say we, I am talking about our ancestors. So our ancestors helped to build this country. So there's no reason why we can't enjoy the fruits of the labor also. And so Tupac knew that in order for us to have true, I don't know about equality, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but he just knew that we needed to be more involved besides just getting out and voting for whoever happens to decide to run. So I think that was a great idea, and I believe had he lived, I believe he definitely would have been able to mobilize enough people to start a political party. And the sad thing about it is, you know, with his death, I haven't heard anyone else say, you know, anyone else of any kind of influence or any type of pool that people listen to even talk about having a political party, which is sad. So, another lesser known fact is okay, so this is a little fun fact. So, Salt and Pepper. So, a lot of people may not know, he was real close friends with the ladies in Salt and Pepper. And when they won their Grammy in 1995, Tupac sent to their dressing room or someplace a cake shaped like a gun. And in a more recent interview, I know Salt and Pepper, they were talking about it, and they said they were shocked and confused by the gift because they weren't sure what to make of it. They wasn't sure if they had pissed Tupac off and if he was trying to send them some kind of message or something like that. But they later learned that it was just his way of congratulating them for winning the Grammy. And I think they said that they had ran into him shortly after that. And they never really asked him, like, why was it shaped like a gun? But then they found out later, like, oh, well, that was his symbol, the thug life kind of gun symbol. That was his way of, you know, just congratulating them. It wasn't, you know, anything, any malintent or anything about that. And I just learned about that recently. I had maybe about a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, so that's interesting. And another interesting fact with Salt and Pepper, and it's so many interesting facts with Tupac Shakur, but I'm limiting the focus to a few of them because there's too many. There's so many. Also, I wanted to bring up Salt and Pepper because I've already kind of done a little show on them. And so I wanted to just kind of, you know, get more like little tidbits on them. But another one too. Okay. So one of Tupac's big songs is called Keep Your Head Up. And if you listen to that song, like right at the beginning of the song, he says something to the effect of, this is a little something for my godson Elijah and a little girl named Corinne. So I learned years later in a interview with Salt and Pepper that the little girl that he was talking about is Salt's daughter. And also Salt's daughter is also in the video Keep Your Head Up. So I haven't watched the video in a while, but I will watch it again. I wanted to see if I can spot her daughter in there. But Salt had said something interesting. She was saying that, you know, she talked about how nice Tupac was and how they were good friends. But she said that she, you know, she wasn't really sure why he, you know, had that connection, that he felt, you know, compelled to not only have the daughter in the video, but actually kind of shout her out in the beginning, because they hadn't really Tupac hadn't really spent a lot of time around Salt with her daughter. But I have a theory, and this is, I don't want to say allegedly, it's not, indicting anybody or whatever, but my theory is, I believe the reason why he shouted Salt's daughter, Salt from Salt and Pepper, her name Cheryl James, why he shouted out Corinne, her daughter, I do believe it was a kind of a message aimed at Salt. I really do. Now, for people that are Salt and Pepper fans, and those that are just learning about them, Salt some years ago had came out and had admitted that she was actually undergoing bouts with depression and an eating disorder. And so when you're friends with somebody, you might share personal stuff like that with your friend, and other people may not know about it. So my theory is that maybe she shared some of her personal struggles with Tupac, and that was his way of telling her to keep her head up, telling Salt from Salt and Pepper to keep her head up, along with all the millions of other women, because he made the song to inspire women to stay encouraged no matter what their situation is. And I thought that's, was really thoughtful of Tupac, and that's another reason why, men and women alike love Tupac. But yeah, my theory is that he mentioned Corinne so that it won't be so obvious that he's really sending a message to Salt for her to stay encouraged and to keep her head up no matter what's going on. So that's my theory on that. I think it's real sweet and cute. And I also heard, on a little side note, that there's supposed to be a biopic coming out on Salt and Pepper, and I really hope that they might put something like that in there or something. I think that's really sweet. So, and another tidbit too on the Salt and Pepper tip is when Tupac, I think he spent like 9 months in prison or however long, but during the time that Tupac was in prison, Salt from Salt and Pepper, she actually wrote Tupac while he was in prison. So they really had a real good and close friendship. And so that just really speaks to the type of person that he was, that he would inspire someone that much that they would take the time to write you in prison. Because if you've ever had a loved one in prison, it's almost like you're in jail with them. You keep up with them. You want to put money on their books if that's an issue, and writing them and all that. So it takes a really special person, a special friend, and a family or what have you, to keep up with someone when they get locked up, because it's really easy to kind of get lost in everything that's going on and not be able to do that. And the last thing is Salt and Pepper again, and I will come back with some more lesser known Tupac facts. And I had so many, I just wanted to break them up. And I was so excited to learn about like how close he was with Salt and Pepper. And I absolutely love Salt and Pepper, if you guys haven't guessed it now. And I love Tupac too. And so I just wanted to split it up. So I'm making this focus, the lesser known stuff, on Tupac. I really wasn't sure what to title it. Now that I'm talking about it, I don't know, maybe I should have titled it lesser known facts about Tupac and Salt and Pepper. I don't know. But anyway, the last tidbit was, okay, so Salt and Pepper had their hit What a Man. And if you've seen the video, all three of the members of Salt and Pepper, including Salt, Pep, and Spinderella, they had their little scenes in there with their different leading men. So at the time, Pep was seeing Tretch, so her man was already picked out for her. But Salt and Spinderella, I think they were single at the time, so they had their pick of the men that they wanted to star in their video. And Salt right away said she wanted Tupac. Um, the thing about that was at the time when they did What a Man in 1994, this was shortly after Tupac was gotten to that trouble about what was going on. Well, he had gotten to a bunch of trouble, but one of the major legal issues he had gotten caught up in was the he was accused of sodomy or sexual assault from this from some lady. And so Salt and Pepper's management at the time, Herbie Lovebug, and I'm not sure who else, but I did read it was Herbie Lovebug really wasn't comfortable with having Tupac in the video at all, considering the legal trouble he was going through, and he thought it would be a bad look for Salt and Pepper. But Salt and Pepper fought for Tupac to be in the video. So they did a compromise. So the compromise was, if you see the video, it's like Salt had her mystery man. So you had Pepper, you was able to see her dude. Spinderella, you was able to see her dude's face. But Salt, it's like, who is that guy in the bed with her? So what they did was they decided to shoot around them so that you didn't really see Tupac's face. And now at the end, there was a part where he looks up and kind of winks at the camera. But other than that, you mostly don't see his face. So that was the compromise. So he was still in the What a Man video, but I guess the direction was to shoot around him so that you don't really see him as much, because the fear was that he would it would look bad on Salt and Pepper to have him in their video and he's being accused of something awful with the woman, which clearly Salt and Pepper was really in Tupac's corner, and they disagreed that would bring them down, and so that was the compromise that they had to do for that. And I'm glad that they at least were able to compromise with that, because Tupac maintained his innocence while he was in prison and all the way until his death. So it's really sad that he would have his legacy tarnished. Now, on the other hand, being a sexual assault is not something to take lightly, and if something like that did happen, it's not right. There were other people from what was reported, there were other guys in the hotel room, but Tupac was the only one that got charged somehow. But not making excuses, the whole situation was sad, and best of luck to the young lady, and she's still around. But it's really sad when you're already indicted by your actions in public. So people may make assumptions or whatever. So it's always great when you have somebody that's in your corner, to try to give you a chance. And at the time he was just accused, it wasn't no conviction or whatever, and even after that he still maintained his innocence. So and that's that. So okay, well, thank you so much for listening. This has been Let's Talk Classic Hip Hop. I know I've went on a lot longer, and if you're still here, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to give you guys some real good content and everything. So thanks for giving me and giving this channel a chance. And until next time, you have been listening to Let's Talk Classic Hip Hop with Sistah Crystal, and for Tupac, we love you, we miss you, and the mom too, Afeni Shakur, rest in paradise to you also. But commemorating what would have been the 47th birthday of Tupac Amaru Shakur. This has been Sister Crystal with Let's Talk Classic Hip Hop. And until next time, take care.